Deep dives and blue skies. Welcome back to Talking Blue with Nick, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talking Blue, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you could find. I'm your host, Nick. You are listening to episode 100 of Talking Blue. Thank you guys so much. I just wanted to thank everyone who's a supporter of my podcast, this YouTube channel, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Thank you so much for the people who subscribe, who like, who comment, who reach out to me on social media, all the people who watch. I just wanted to thank you guys. It means a lot to me. I can't believe I've done 100 podcasts. I've sat down and done 100 of these, started in a different setup, and the show has changed along the way, and it's just been really fun. I'm a lifelong Dodger fan, lifelong baseball fan who gets to sit on here, talk about his favorite team, talk about baseball in general, 2 different podcasts. I just wanted to thank everyone who watches 100 episodes. That's pretty crazy. But we are here to talk about the Dodgers and the Rockies series, which wrapped up last night. Dodgers sweep the Rockies. They just run through the Rockies. A great series. Everything that I wanted to see, honestly. I said at my last podcast to sweep the Rockies. I wanted to see, just take care of a bad team. A lot of things to talk about. All right, obviously, Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts played very well in this series. Andy Pages was absolutely on fire. Freddie Freeman played pretty well as well. We're also going to have to talk about some injury stuff. Kike Hernandez, Teoscar Hernandez, a couple guys who came back, Eric Lauer, all that stuff we're going to get to. As always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Turn on the notifications so you don't miss any of the videos dropping. You can follow us on all social media at Talkin' Blue Pod. That is Instagram, TikTok, and X. You can also follow myself at Nick Talkin' Ball on X. I tweet all things Dodgers and all baseball things as well, if you are a baseball fan. All right, so before we get to the 3 games that took place, let's get to some injury/roster stuff. Obviously, the 2 Hernandezes, that's where we'll start. Teoscar Hernandez left Wednesday night's game with a hamstring strain. All right, he was running down to first base trying to beat out a ground ball. You could tell he immediately tweaked what looked like his left hamstring, went back into the dugout, and was pretty upset. Obviously, that kind of tells that he knew it wasn't good. I believe he dealt with a hamstring last year. I always forget because I think at first it came out as a groin, but then it was said to be a hamstring. No way to slice it. This absolutely sucks. He was one of their better hitters in the month of May. Really turned a corner. We know that he last year, I wouldn't call it a disappointing season last year, but, it certainly was disappointing based on what he did his first year. The slash line last year was what was definitely disappointing. Didn't have as good an on-base or slugging percentage. Still did hit 25 home runs. But when you combined the overall lack of production in terms of the slash line, his defense was bad. It was a little bit of a down year. And you could have credited a lot of that to a hamstring injury. At least I think it was a hamstring injury that he dealt with last May or so, last April, something like that. Once he came back from the injury, he was pretty much never the same. Was fairly good in the postseason. So anyways, wanted to see him get off to a good start this year. Did get off to a pretty kind of up and down start. Looked good to start the year. Got cold. We're still kind of in the early parts of the year, like basically a quarter through the season. The month of May definitely turned a corner. Coming into this series against the Rockies, started to get his OPS basically scratching the surface of 800. That sucks. I'm sure he's going to have to go through more testing, but they already said he will definitely go on the IL. And obviously with a hamstring injury, considering how severe it is, it could obviously be 2 to 3 weeks, and we could see Teoscar back in the month of June, or we could not see him till coming out of the All-Star break. You really never know. Based on how it looked, I would like to say probably end of June if I had to guess. But obviously, it's still very early and very disappointing. It has already come out. I forgot who tweeted it, so I could have given them credit. Ryan Ward will be recalled from OKC. He made his debut, Major League debut earlier this year. in Colorado, a longtime Dodgers farmhand who's actually been like one of the better minor league hitters in the game. Just a little bit of an older minor leaguer who hasn't, who's just kind of been blocked by being in such a good organization. I was hoping we were going to get to see James Tibbs III. If you're not aware who that is, Dodgers got him in the Dustin May trade a year ago. Former Giant, traded to the Red Sox for Rafael Devers. Former FSU high draft pick, top prospect. Then traded for Dustin May last July. And ever since he's been in the Dodgers organization, specifically this year, he has been he has an OPS over 1,000 in the minor leagues. Still is only 23 years old. Already has more than 10 home runs. Like corner outfielder, first base bat, left-handed hitter who looks like he has crazy pop. If you've actually seen a lot of his home runs, he has a ton of pop the other way. Like he looks like he's going to be a very good hitter. I was hoping we would get to see him. But it has already been confirmed. Ward was already on the 40-man roster. Tibbs was not. So they would have obviously had to, make a roster change. So it kind of made more sense, and it was easier for them to just recall Ward. So anyways, let's go to the next guy, Kike Hernandez. This, again, sucks. Kike Hernandez came back Monday, had a good game Monday, had a good game Tuesday. He already had like 2 doubles, 3 doubles on the year, a home run. He then has torn, whatever you want to call, strained his left oblique strain, and they said the MRI revealed a significant tear. So that literally means an oblique is one of the more like, how do I word it, like difficult injuries for a baseball player because you never know how it's going to progress. You never know the timeline. And when you get the words significant tear, we might as well set our expectations to not see Kike Hernandez until sometime in August. Like, honestly. Now obviously in terms of like the Dodgers season and their roster, it's not the end of the world. Kike is a bench player, even though I love Kike, the vibes he brings, the versatility, obviously is always great in the big moment, postseason. I hope he's ready to go postseason time because I don't care what happens. Always want that guy ready for October. So it doesn't affect the Dodgers in that way. They already have the second best record in the game without Kike Hernandez. So it's not really like, worrisome about the team. It just sucks for him overall. This is the third player this year who has had a lot of time on the IL, came back, and then immediately goes back on the IL. First, it was Brock Stewart, made his debut early May, hadn't really pitched in a long, long time, immediately went back on the IL like 3 days later. Blake Snell made his debut a couple weeks ago against the Braves, and then literally goes back on the IL less than a week later. Same thing with Kike Hernandez. The Dodgers have actually been somewhat fortunate up until this point in the season with their injuries. It hasn't been a injury-riddled season, even though if you do look at their IL, they do have a good amount of guys. Snell, Glasnow, now Kike and Teoscar Hernandez, Tommy Edman. I understand that. It hasn't felt like a big-time injury year yet from the Dodgers. It's just ironically that some of these guys that have spent a lot of time have gone right back. So that just blows, especially because Kike looked actually very good. He hit a couple of rockets in those couple games. So, anyways, spending a lot of time on these injury roster stuff. Teoscar Hernandez, Kike Hernandez will be injured for the foreseeable future. Hopefully Teoscar can progress a little bit better, and maybe we can see him at some point in June. Max Muncy, this is one of the only positive updates because if Max Muncy also would have joined these two guys on the IL, then this would have quickly flipped from the injuries have been good this year to, this is a banged up team right now. Muncy avoids the IL. He didn't play in the first 2 games, or didn't start, I should say. He came in to play defense at the end of game 2. He got the start in game 3. That's great. All right, we didn't have to avoid. We got to avoid any IL stuff, and plus, the way the Dodgers unfortunately do it sometimes, they'll give a guy a full week to see how he feels, and then they'll IL him. So it's we didn't have to deal with any of that. He makes his return. Alex Freeland was recalled for Kike Hernandez, so he gets called up, and he played second base on Wednesday night. Jack Dreyer has been throwing live pens. He actually looks like he's close to returning. Tommy Edman finally has gone on a rehab assignment. Now, it has been said that he will spend a good amount of time down there. At least will play the maximum I forget how it works because there's so many different little things with roster stuff, injury stuff, 60-day IL. You have to wait until you're eligible once placed on the 60-day IL. And then also when you have a long-time injury, you can play like a certain amount of max games. So I think like it's like 20 games for Tommy Edman. So he's probably going to be down there for like half of June, more like 3/4 of June. I would imagine like right around that June 15th number is probably where we'll start to get some updates on him. And then finally, so we can get to these games, Evan Phillips has continued to throw live batting practice, and a rehab assignment looks like it is coming in the near future. So if a lot of these injuries can go well, in the month of June, the Dodgers will get a substantial amount of guys back. All right, let's get to these games because it's like almost been 10 minutes and we haven't talked about a game yet. Monday night, the Dodgers and the Rockies in LA. We got Emmett Sheehan taking on Tanner Gordon, the right-hander of the Colorado Rockies. Bottom of the third, the Dodgers get on the board first thanks to Kike Hernandez, a double into left field. 1-0 Dodgers. Later on in the fourth, the Rockies would tally some runs together against Emmett Sheehan. An RBI single thanks to Willie Castro, then a sac fly from Ezequiel Tovar. Rockies actually take the lead, go to the seventh inning. Ezequiel Tovar again, his second home run of the year, makes it a 3-1 game. So seventh inning, Dodgers are down 2 runs against the Rockies. But the most fun part of this game, the bottom of the seventh inning, a run comes into the score thanks to Shohei Ohtani beating out a double play. The call was overturned. It's now a 3-2 game. Next batter, Mookie Betts, he hits a sac fly to left field to tie the game at 3. Right after that, Freddie Freeman, he doubles into right field, almost hit this ball out, crushed it off the right field wall, makes it 4-3 Dodgers. Then Andy Pages with a nice 2-out single to dead center, makes it 5-3. A nice 4-run seventh inning from the Dodgers gives them the lead. The bullpen would hold it down. The Dodgers would win by a score of 5-3. A nice comeback win Monday night. Emmett Sheehan for 6. Kyle Hurt for 1. Will Klein for 1. Vesia goes 2/3 of an inning in the ninth. And then Blake Trinan comes on to get the final out in the ninth. And he also gets credited with the save. Emmett Sheehan, we'll start with him. 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. So that is a good amount of strikeouts from Emmett, kind of in the normal range for him. He lowers his ERA to 4.70. We're going to start with Emmett Sheehan, and that's what we'll do most of our talking for Game 1. Then I'll just talk about a couple nice things from this game overall. But Emmett Sheehan tied his career high with 10 whiffs on the four-seam fastball. Talked about it all year. A couple Dodger pitchers have actually had issues with their four-seam fastball this year. Him, Roki Sasaki. So that's great to see that he got whiffs on the four-seam fastball. He now has a 273 batting average against on that pitch with a 27.8% whiff rate. That's actually pretty good whiff rate. The expected numbers are still not great on the four-seamer, and that has definitely been one of the issues with Emmett Sheehan. But the more and more that you dive into Emmett, and I've done this before, so I won't spend too much time on this, but the more you dive into Emmett, his expected numbers, underlying metrics, which you guys know I talk a ton about on this show, a lot of the numbers would show that Emmett has been just as good as he was last year. He's even improved in some numbers. But when you take a look at his slider, how does he combat the four-seam fastball struggles this year? He does it with one of the better sliders in baseball. 18th best slider among all sliders in the game according to run value. That pitch is a 201 batting average against with a 41% whiff rate. He gets a lot of swing and miss on his slider. So he's got a 4.70 ERA, like I said, but his expected ERA is actually 3.88, and his expected FIP is actually 3.26. And that is actually better than his expected FIP from last year, where he had a very, very good year, ERA in the low threes. He had an expected FIP a year ago of 3.37. His expected FIP right now is 3.26. Expected FIP is fielding independent pitching, kind of like a better number of ERA, takes out the defense and unluckiness with some pitchers that have a bad defense. Usually you can look at their FIP, and it would suggest that they pitched better than their ERA. Expected FIP even makes that more, pitcher individual because it looks at the quality of contact, all that kind of stuff. So based on that, his expected FIP has actually been better than he was last year, where he was pretty solid. Other things that Sheehan has actually improved from 2025, his barrel rate. Last year it was 9.2. Last year it was 10. Right now it's at 9.2. So he's actually been better at allowing barrels. His average exit velocity has improved. His hard hit percentage has improved. So has his walk rate. He actually has decreased his walk rate in 2026. So what's been the difference? Because obviously Emmett has an ERA of 4.70. So you might hear all that and think, well, if the quality of contact is better, he's still getting strikeouts. We know about the four-seamer issues, but what's actually been the difference? Why has Emmett struggled if some of these numbers actually suggest that he's actually pitching a little bit better? Well, his expected slug in 2025 was 346. The expected slug right now is 412. So based on the quality of contact when it comes to certain areas like fly balls and slug, he is allowing a little bit more expected damage. All right, now this is very interesting, and you really got to dive into the numbers to understand this, but he's actually increased his ground ball percentage. He's never been a big ground ball percentage, ground ball pitcher, more of a fly ball pitcher, which is not uncommon for a four-seam guy who pitches up in the zone. But he's increased his ground ball rate, which is great. You guys know I love ground balls, and he's actually slightly decreased his fly ball percentage. So again, you might think, well, how has he gotten worse if those numbers have actually improved? The one difference in Emmett's game, all right, other than, like I said, the fastball issues that he's had throughout the year, when he does allow fly balls, he allows the absolute worst kind of fly balls. Pull air percentage. That's a stat you guys have heard me talk about a lot on this show, both for hitters and pitchers. 18% last year. Right now it is at 29.8%. More than a 10% increase in pull air percentage. All right. What do pulled balls in the air mean? What do they usually lead to? Home runs. All right. Which is the worst amount of slug that you can allow. In 73 and 1/3 innings pitched last year, he allowed 7 home runs. Right now in 51.2 innings pitched, he's allowed 9 home runs. So in 20 less innings pitched than last year, he's allowed 2 more home runs. So that is very interesting. Basically what it means, when he does allow a fly ball, when he is allowing any kind of hard contact, it is fly balls in the air that are leading to home runs. So interesting. I really wonder how you can combat that. Is it luck? Is it, if you actually dive into his pull percentage, it has jumped up a ton, so more hitters are just pulling the ball off of Emmett overall. Again, I think it all stems back to the four-seam fastball being less affected. Your fastball is less effective. Guys can jump on that pitch, more damage off of that pitch, pull the ball, hit it in the air more. I would imagine that if his four-seam fastball was in a better spot, these numbers, the pull percentage, the home runs, would have not been this much of an increase. But that's really been the thing for Emmett. It all stems from the fastball. And when he does allow a certain kind of contact, it is the worst you can allow. Because like I said, that is insane that you look at his numbers and see, well, he's actually gotten a little bit more ground balls, a little bit less fly balls. But the one thing that he's done is when he does allow fly balls, they are pulled and they are in the air. So very interesting. I found that crazy that I was able to find that out. Overall, I still love Emmett Sheehan. I still think that he's probably later in the year, like he did last year, will kick to the bullpen. Later in the year, meaning in October. He will be a starter the entire year. And I still feel confident that he's going to turn it around, and by the end of the year, he will have some pretty solid numbers. I don't think he's going to have a sub-3 ERA, but I could very much envision the K rate right around 30% like it's been, and maybe an ERA in the high 3s. That would be a very successful year from a guy that young in his third year and, kind of low on the Dodgers depth chart. So I still love Emmett, but right now one of his concerns is the guys are being able to pull the ball in the air with some authority against him. All right, last couple things before we get to game 2. A really fun comeback in that 7th inning. Really fun comeback. All right, Ohtani beating out the double play with the bases loaded. That was massive because obviously it kept the inning to just 1 out. Bases were loaded with no outs. He hits a rocket on the ground to second base, and he was able to beat out the throw. Obviously, that means it's now 1st and 3rd with 1 out. Obviously, if if that play wasn't overturned, you have runner on third base with 2 outs. So the sac fly for Mookie Betts wouldn't have been able to happen, and the Dodgers would have been down 1 run. So great hustle from him to beat that out. It allows the sac fly for Mookie. Freddie Freeman smoked the ball to right field. They almost didn't even get it from the replay was coming back and Freddie was mid swing. I thought the ball was gone, but he hit it off the right field wall. And then Andy Pages just reached out on a nice breaking ball, shot it up the middle to extend the Dodgers' lead. The bullpen, once again, was great. They actually allowed their first run in 38 innings pitched. Kyle Hurt gave up a home run to Ezequiel Tovar. But again, they held it down, kept the game close for the Dodgers to come back. And then once they did have the lead, they nailed down the game. Vesia, Trinan. We'll talk about those guys later on in the series because they continue to be very, very good. Kyle Hurt, like I said, Tanner Scott, Vesia, Trinan, a lot of those guys look really, really good right now. And they're about to get back, like I said, Jack Dreyer at some point. We'll see about Brock Stewart. We'll see when Evan Phillips can get close to returning. Let's get to Game 2. Eric Lauer making his season Dodger debut. They obviously acquired him from the Blue Jays about a week and a half ago. He finally gets a chance to make a start in the rotation. He takes on veteran left-hander Kyle Freeland. All right, so Dodgers get on the board first in the bottom of the first. An amazing sign. We're going to talk about all this. Mookie Betts on an 0-2 pitch hits a home run to dead center, his 5th home run of the year. Later on in the second inning, Eric Lauer would allow a solo home run to Hunter Goodman, so the Dodgers' lead is cut in half. It's now 2-1. But in the third inning, Kike Hernandez hits his first home run of the year. Again, he looked amazing coming off the IL. It just absolutely sucks that he tore the oblique and goes on the IL. 3-1 Dodgers. Right after that, Andy Pages, he homers to left field, 4-1. Pages was incredible in this series, and we'll talk about it. Later on in the fourth inning, Dodgers got a run thanks to a wild pitch from Kyle Freeland. Andy Pages would double into left field, another hit, more RBIs for Pages. Dodgers lead 7-1. Sac fly from Freddie Freeman, 8-1. A double from Miguel Rojas, 9-1. Sac fly from Hae-Sung Kim makes it 10-1. And then in the sixth inning, Mookie Betts with another 2-run homer, this time to left field, 13-1. So Mookie Betts with a 2-homer game. He also had a single in this game. Another great sign. Will Smith homers to dead center, line drive home run. It's now 15-1 Dodgers. In the ninth inning, the Rockies would tally a bunch of runs off of Miguel Rojas. So instead of a 15-1 game, Dodgers win by a score of 15-6. Eric Lauer for 6. Jonathan Hernandez, again, one of the guys that have been brought up from the minors with a couple of these injuries. He pitches 2 innings for the Dodgers. He actually looks like he's got some pretty good stuff. And then Miguel Rojas goes 1 inning pitch and gives up 5 earned runs. Way to go, Miguel Rojas. You really messed up the Dodgers' run differential in this game. No, I'm just joking. The Dodgers still have the best run differential in the game. All right, let's quickly talk about Eric Lauer. I just want to give him some credit. Coming off the deck, getting traded, new team. Actually, has been a nemesis of the Dodgers in the past. They were showing his great numbers at home, or at Dodger Stadium, I should say, because of his great success. He goes 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run, which was on the home run, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. He had about 7 whiffs in the game. He's basically like a Justin Robleski 2.0, left-handed pitcher who will keep the ball in the strike zone, but doesn't get a lot of whiffs and strikeouts. I'll be honest, I actually didn't even lock in on a lot of his start. I was really focused on the offense. But hey, Lauer gets the win. He goes 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run. Dodgers needed it with some of these injuries right now. That's absolutely great. He's going to get a couple more shots next time out. 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run. Shout out Eric Lauer. Let's talk about Mookie Betts and Will Smith before we get to Game 3. All right. Mookie was actually dropped down in the lineup to the 4 spot in this game. That was some of the news coming in. All right. Absolutely massive. All right. This is what we wanted to see. This is what we needed to see from Mookie Betts. I've talked about it for 2+ weeks now, ever since he's come off the IL. He's been unlucky, hitting the ball hard. Some of that went away in that past Brewers series where he was a little cold, didn't have as many hard hit balls. And I said one of the biggest needs coming into this series was we needed to see not only good at-bats for Mookie, but results. All right, we got to come out of this Rocky series feeling like Mookie did something. Not only does he go deep, get a couple hits, he hits 2 home runs. He had a nice 3-hit game in this game. All right, and I've been harping on these underlying metrics for over 2 weeks, but again, it goes, there's a reason why I've been saying it. All right, he has the highest barrel rate since 2023, where he was second in MVP. 2024, he had a 6% barrel rate. 2025, 5.5. Right now, it's at 10.4. So he's almost doubled his barrel rate from last year. His highest average exit velocity since 2023. His expected slug, all right, in 2024, 468. Last year was 422. Right now, it's at 448. Much more in line with what he was at in 2024 when he still put up like an 860 OPS, was one of the best 15 hitters in the sport. His highest hard hit rate since 2023. Now he's got to continue this because he still is hitting like under 200, still has an OPS under 700. All right, but obviously when your numbers were that bad and you have a 3-hit, 2-home run game, the numbers look a little bit better. The at-bats felt a little bit better. Dave Roberts looks like a genius, sliding him down in the cleanup hole, and then he hits 2 home runs. Again, one of the things with Mookie is he's got to be able to pull the ball in the air for his extra base hits. He actually went dead center on that home run off of Kyle Freeland in the first inning. 0-2 pitch, so when he hit the ball, I knew that he hit it well, but as soon as I saw it was the dead center, I was like, shit, I think that ball is going to stay up. But it gets out, and then the home run to left field, he actually... on the broadcast, they were saying like Mookie knew that he got it. I actually think that Mookie dropped his bat in frustration because he thought he popped it up, but he got enough barrel on the ball and hit it enough to where he was able to carry and get over the fence. So great stuff for Mookie. We've been wanting to see this. He needs to continue it, though. He's got to continue the production. We are about to get to June. Last series in May will be this weekend against the Phillies. Looking towards June, he's got to continue to get hot. He still has not a ton of plate appearances this year. And, if Mookie could get hot in the month of June and have a pretty nice June, we could still trend towards a very nice bounce-back season for Mookie Betts. He still has a lot of time, but it's got to start sooner than later because the faster and faster you get into June, July, you quickly run out of time. And, he looks much better. He's still, not chasing, not striking out. The one thing he is missing right now is, obviously, other than unluckiness and just production, the one thing that he's missing is walking. He hasn't walked a ton this year. It just seems like pitchers have really attacked him with strikes. That's why if you look at his expected weighted on base average, WOBA, weighted on base average, which is another analytical number, but also includes on base and stuff like that, that is not as high as it's been in the past because the walks haven't been there this year. But the not chasing has still been there for Mookie. So I do think that will even out as time goes on. Quickly, before we get to Game 3, I just wanted to talk about Will Smith. His OPS is now up to 714, which is very nice. Not by his standards, but considering that he's been very cold this year and has struggled, but I also think he's been unlucky. I know I say that a lot, but nice to see his OPS get over 700. He actually has been the most unlucky hitter in the game. It's funny, the Dodgers have had a lot of these guys. It was for a little bit, it was Freddie Freeman. Now it's Will Smith. All right, he has a 377 slugging percentage, but his expected slug is 485. That's the biggest discrepancy in Major League Baseball when you compare slug and expected slug. Same thing with his WOBA, right? What I just talked about, weighted on base average. 322 WOBA, 381 expected weighted on base average, 381 expected WOBA. Also the biggest discrepancy in WOBA and expected WOBA. He has a better barrel percentage than he did last year, where he had a 901 OPS. He won't have the same monster season that he had last year, but I fully expect him to have an OPS over 800, 15-plus home runs. I still expect him to be very good. If you actually take a look at his Baseball Savant page, it is very similar to a year ago when it comes to the plate discipline and the quality of contact and all that kind of stuff, his expected slug. So I think he's going to be fine. And again, him, Mookie, and Kyle Tucker will be at the top of my list of guys that we need to see play good in the month of June. All right, so great game. Dodgers take the first 2 games. Let's go to Game 3. Shohei Ohtani is on the mound, and he is also in the lineup. He will take on his fellow countryman, Sagano, the Japanese right-hander of the Rockies. All right, in the bottom of the first, just like a week ago in San Diego, the starting pitcher, Shohei Ohtani, starts the game with a home run. All right, not the top of the first, obviously, because they're the home team. His first at-bat, he goes deep to dead center, an absolute bomb off of Sagano. Shohei gives himself the lead, his 9th home run of the year. Couple batters later, Freddie Freeman, he hits his 7th home run of the year. A nice sign. His slug has gone up a ton as of late, and in the month of May, I'm going to get into his numbers in a minute. His 7th home run of the year, it's 2-0 Dodgers. Rockies would get on the board, though, on a RBI ground out from Willie Castro. Alex Freeland, who got the start in this game, actually made a nice diving play. Fielded a ground ball kind of in the hole of first and second. Freddie Freeman went over to get the ball, so he was kind of in no man's land. Freeland ran over to first base, dives, touches the bag to get the out, so it wasn't no man's zone in terms of getting an out. Bottom of the first, 4th inning, Alex Call, who got the start in this game, giving Kyle Tucker a day off. He singles into left to make it 3-1 Dodgers. Will Smith was thrown out at the plate, so it just remains 3-1. And then in the bottom of the 8th, I'm all over the place, Antipas with his 2nd home run of the series, his 5th extra base hit, his 13th home run of the year, makes it 4-1 Dodgers. He absolutely was going off in this series. Continues to stay hot to start the year. Dodgers win by a score of 4-1. They sweep the Rockies. They win their 5th straight. They get their 36th win of the year. They now have they're 1 game behind the Braves for the best record in baseball. Later today, the Braves will take on the Red Sox. All right, Shohei Ohtani goes 6. Will Klein for 1. Tanner Scott for 1. Kyle Hurt for 1. Kyle Hurt gets his first career save. So credit and congratulations to him. Let's talk about Shohei Ohtani and what he did on the mound. All right, he goes 6 innings pitched, no hits. So he took a no-hitter into the 6th inning and was finished the 6th. Didn't give up any hits, obviously. Had a pretty high pitch count, so they didn't let him, stay out there. 1 earned run, like I said, which was because he allowed some walks, and then an RBI ground out. 4 walks, 7 strikeouts. All right, pretty good start from Shohei overall. Very similar to what we saw a week ago with the Padres. He did allow some walks, didn't necessarily have the best of command, but he did bring the whiffs. He had 14 whiffs. 9 were on the four-seamer, and then he had 5 were on the sweeper, I believe. So he continued to have he continues to basically really lean on the four-seamer and the sweeper. 51% four-seam fastball, 38% sweeper. After that, 5% curveball, 4% sinker, 2% splitter. All right, 9 whiffs on the four-seamer, 4 on the sweeper. All right, so continued to lean on those 2 pitches. All right, but very good start overall. Again, it just shows that he didn't have his best command. He still didn't even allow a hit or obviously an earned run. It just shows that this guy is on another level right now. All right, 9 whiffs on his amazing four-seam fastball. If he would have been a little bit more efficient, maybe we could have even saw some history considering that he didn't allow any hits. But anyways, his ERA is .82, by far the best in Major League Baseball. Again, Shohei doesn't qualify yet. One of the things that has hurt him, especially as of late, is he hasn't had as good of command, so he hasn't gone too deep into games. When you consider that he's only going the last couple starts 5-6 innings, the Dodgers tend to use a 6-man rotation. He doesn't throw as many innings as a couple of these other guys, so he doesn't qualify. Like right now, if you went to Major League Baseball leaders, ERA leaders, it wouldn't show his name because he doesn't have as many innings. So that's where I am starting to wonder, like, Shohei will definitely get Cy Young votes this year. I'm confident in that. And I still remain confident that he's going to have a great shot to win the Cy Young. The only thing that concerns me is, like, the entire year, we're not going to see him kind of qualifying. And so, you just see what Christopher Sanchez of the Phillies is doing right now. A couple others guys. It's going to be difficult for Shohei to stay in there and get the award. But pound for pound, he might be the best starting pitcher in the game. Like I said, the ERA of .82, nobody's even close to that. All right. So he is second in expected ERA, 11th in strikeout rate, first in batting average against, second in whip, 6th in FIP. He has the 14th best ground ball rate in Major League Baseball, career high in ground balls. I've talked about that all year. One of the reasons why Shohei is pitching at an even better level than he was a year ago. Pretty much the best season early on that he's had on the mound. If you looked at his season last year in 2025, he was amazing on the mound, and he's actually gotten better when you look at a lot of metrics. Second in expected batting average and slug, 4th in barrel rate, 9th in overall whiff rate. All right. Ohtani has 2 of the best 11 pitches in the entire sport between his four-seam fastball and his sweeper, according to run value. All right. His fastball is the 4th best fastball in the entire sport, according to run value. 169 batting average against with a 28.2% whiff rate. All right. The four-seamer just does not allow hits, and he actually gets some pretty good swing and miss on that pitch. The best sweeper in the game, 078 batting average against with a 39% whiff rate. The lowest batting average amongst all sweepers and the 8th highest whiff rate. Oh, and by the way, in his last 2 starts, he hit a leadoff home run, and he has an 882 OPS, and he has the 2nd highest on-base percentage in the National League. So he's raking at the plate, and he's been pound for pound, arguably the best starting pitcher in the planet. He will have his 5th MVP later this November. The only question will be, can he win his first Cy Young? That's the only question. It looks like we're going to get a season from Shohei where we, not a career low in home runs, but it doesn't look like we're going to get the 50 homer season from Shohei. We'll see. One of his better months in his career is always June. He could go off this June and get much closer to being like 40 home run season. But anyways, when you consider that he's got an on-base over 400, he's been still one of the best 20 hitters in the game, probably will still hit 30 home runs, 30-plus home runs, and when you tie that in with what he's doing on the mound, he's going to win his 5th MVP, which I knew coming into this year. The only question will be, can he get his Cy Young? I am starting to, I'm going to be on the side of no. I would predict he doesn't get it. Because the National League is just so loaded right now, on top of all the other things that makes it difficult for him, considering that he has to qualify and all that kind of stuff. But regardless, he is the best player in the sport, the best, the most valuable considering what he does on both sides. He is it is Shohei's world, and we're just living in it, honestly, as baseball fans. So a couple other guys we'll talk about before we wrap up. Andy Pages, he just continues to be amazing. Pages was 8 for 13 in this series with 5 extra base hits. He has straight up been the best center fielder in Major League Baseball this year. He has the 13th best slugging percentage, OPS, and weighted runs created plus in all of baseball. He is 3rd among all outfielders in fielding run value, 7th in outs above average. He is tied for 1st with Pete Crow Armstrong in defensive run save. So he's one of the 20 best offensive players in the sport, and he is one of the best 10 defensive outfielders in the game. And Pete Crow Armstrong is generally considered as the best defensive center fielder in the game, and it shows. Defensive run saved, Pete Crow and Andy Pages are on the same level right now. He is 2nd in arm value, 9th strongest arm on average in all of baseball, considering the velocity of his throws. So he is one of the strongest arms in baseball. And arm value, is the strength of the guy's arm plus the accuracy and throwing guys out. So that's why some guys have a strong arm but aren't accurate. Some guys are accurate but don't have a strong arm. Whatever. That's how you get 2nd in arm value. All right. When you look at Major League Baseball F-WAR leaders, it goes Bobby Witt Jr. 1, Yordan Alvarez 2, Andy Pages 3. He is 3 of the most valuable players in the game. If you combine Shohei's pitching and hitting WAR, he, I think, is 2nd behind Bobby Witt. But that's not really how it works. So Pages has been a top 5 player in the game when it comes to WAR. Pretty incredible. It is amazing what he's done. He just, the biggest thing with Pages too is that even when he's had a little bit of some cold stretches early on this year, which there's been very few of them, he still has contributed. That's kind of been the biggest difference. They always talk about with elite hitters, it's how long can you stay? How long can you maintain a hot stretch, and then how quickly can you put an end to the cold stretches? That's how you become an elite hitter. How far can you extend being hot? And then when you're struggling, how quickly can you turn it around? That's, it's a long season. If you dive into, like I said, I've talked about this before, Freddie Freeman in 2025. He started off the first 2 months of the year on fire. The next 2 months, June and July, he was horrible. 2 of the worst months of his career. August and September, he was much better. Not as good as the first 2 months, but he was much better, very, very good. And you look at his numbers at the end of the year, an OPS over 850. So it just shows that like you can have up and downs throughout a season. It's very good. But the elite hitters extend hot streaks for as long as possible, and they put an end to cold streaks as quick as possible. Pages, once again, is hot, red hot, 8 for 13 in this series. Extra base hits. He's pulling the baseball right now. You know, another thing that I like about Pages, he really crushes breaking pitches. You watch his at-bats next time you see Andy Pages. He sits on off-speed pitches a lot. And he's one of those guys that will swing and miss and chase. And, you know, he's got a pretty big leg kick, and he's trying to pull the ball. And he clearly has a plan up there. He doesn't necessarily seem to be sitting on fastballs a lot, which is not something you often see. You know, especially this day and age, guys throwing harder and harder. It's like you kind of can't go up there and not sit fastball. But Pages you could really tell that he sits on breaking balls and he hammers breaking balls. I mean, last night he hit a line drive home run into the left field corner. I'm pretty sure it was on a 2-0 count, and he got a slider and was all over it. Like 2-0 count, as a hitter, you're generally taught like, 2-0 count, you're looking for the heater. I know baseball's changed where you see more and more off-speed pitches and breaking balls than ever, even with the increased velocity every year. But, yeah, Pages looks like a smarter hitter. He's aggressive. He is up there in the top of the leaderboards in hits and RBIs. And, yeah, he's amazing. OPS is right under 900. He's been amazing. Freddie Freeman, I wanted to give him some credit because he looks very, very good right now. 5 for 11 in this series. On the year now, Freddie has a 271 batting average, a 368 on base, a 462 slug, 830 OPS. All right, so his OPS is nicely over 800. Freddie tends to be more in the 850, 880 range. So still right now, if this was what Freddie Freeman kind of did for the rest of the year and finished up, it would still be somewhat of a down year. But when you consider that he's in his 16th year and he's 36 years old and how long he's been doing it, more people would generally say, like, he just kept doing it. Not really that he began to fall off or anything like that. But after by his standards, a very mid first month of the year, he actually started off the year very good, but the last couple weeks of April, he cooled off. And by the end of April, he had like a 700 OPS or something, like very mid by his standards. Obviously, it was super early. But in the month of May, we got one more series left of May, so hopefully he can finish off strong against the Phillies and have a really, really really good May. But in the month of May, 289 with a 417 on base, a 530 slug, and a 948 OPS, 169 weighted runs created plus. The one thing that stands out to me is the slugging percentage, because Freddie never in a Dodger uniform has been a big home run hitter, and he's really never been a huge home run hitter in his career. He has had a couple of years of 30 plus home runs, 35 home runs. I think his career is either 39 or 37 with the Braves. But with the Dodgers, he pretty much hits like 20 to 25 home runs, and where a lot of his power comes from is the doubles, the extra base hits. So right now, he's on pace to have about 20-plus home runs, but also 40-plus doubles again. So, in the month of May, the 530 slug, that's what I really like. The slug has gone up. Hopefully we could see him maintain that. I would love to see him hit 25 to 30 home runs, but that's not really his game anymore. He doesn't pull the ball like a ton. He hits the ball the other way. He really is like one of the best bat-to-ball, gap-to-gap hitters in the game. And, I've always quoted Mark DeRosa. He always says on MLB Network, if I had to have one hitter take an at-bat for my life, if I had to take one hitter to have an at-bat with my life on the line, I would pick Freddie Freeman. And he's one of the best hitters when it comes to getting a hit in the big spot, and he looks very hot. Hopefully he can maintain this, because like I said, a year ago, first 2 months he was amazing, and then he went super cold in the following 2 months. So obviously, one of the things when you're an older player is that you're gonna go through slumps, because sometimes you're not gonna feel good, and you're not gonna be in the best like physical shape. So hopefully Freddie can maintain this and not go into any slumps, June swoons, nothing like that. So hopefully he can stay hot. Last couple things from this game. Alex Call, he's such a nice bench piece. Made a nice diving catch in right field early in the game, and then he had the RBI single. Guy is just a great guy, just a great guy to have on the bench. Hits left-handed pitching. Great plate discipline. Doesn't strike out a ton. And he's just exciting guy out there. Brings a lot of energy. Plays pretty good defense. So, he doesn't play a ton because a lot of the guys on the Dodgers take pride in playing every day. But I would imagine with Teoscar Hernandez going on the IL, Call is going to step up, play a lot of left field. Him and Ryan Ward. But Call will probably get the majority of the at-bats, honestly. He deserves it because he has put up some good numbers in his limited playing time. And then I just wanted to credit last couple bullpen guys. Will Klein, he pitched a scoreless inning in this game. His ERA is 1.93, a sub-2 ERA from Will Klein, a guy who's been DFA'd a couple times. Nobody really knew his name, even Dodger fans, I would imagine. Nobody really knew his name until Game 3 of the World Series last year. Well, right now, he is a sub-2 ERA, and he is a vital, important piece, late-inning piece, I might add, to the best bullpen in the game right now. Tanner Scott, another scoreless inning from him. He has a sub-2 ERA as well, almost sub-1. He's got a 1.19 ERA, and he had 2 strikeouts in this game. He looks very, very good right now. And Kyle Hurt actually got the chance to get his first save, and he completed it in this game. Even with the home run that he allowed earlier in the series, a 1.6 ERA. He is getting close to a sub-1 ERA as well. Dominant stuff from him. A lot of strikeouts, changeup, fastball, combination, four-seamers, one of the better four-seamers in the game. Great series. This was a great series. I almost got everything out of this series that I wanted to see. The one thing I didn't get to see was Kyle Tucker and some good at-bats from him. He was pretty much the only thing. But other than that, I wanted to see Mookie Betts do some good things, put up some numbers, get some results. We got that. I wanted to see Freddie Freeman. I wanted to see, obviously, Shohei. And I wanted to see Paz. I wanted to see all those guys continue. I wanted to see Will Smith get better. All those guys did those things. Obviously, I wanted to see a sweep. We got to see that. Sweep the Rockies. They're not a good team, right? That's what you want to see. The only thing, like I said, was Kyle Tucker. So the Dodgers will play 3 games in LA starting tomorrow night. That will be May 29th, the final 3 days of May, and we will look ahead to June. We're already on the surface, scratching the surface of June in 2026. It's crazy how fast the season can go sometimes. So we'll play the Phillies in LA for 3. All right, Justin Robleski will take on Zach Wheeler Friday night. Lock in on Zach Wheeler's stats since he came off the IL from the health scare that he had a year ago. He is back to pitching like one of the 10 best pitchers in the game, even at his older age. So the Dodgers will have their hands full with Zach Wheeler Friday night. All right, Roki Sasaki, he will take on Jesus Luzardo Saturday night. Luzardo has a bad ERA, but if you dive into the expected numbers, which you guys know I love, expected numbers actually suggest he is still one of the better pitchers. Luzardo to finish in top 3 in Cy Young before the season started. And then also Yamamoto will take on Andy Painter on Sunday. Fun fact about myself, I actually played baseball in high school against both Jesus Luzardo and Andy Painter. That's actually pretty funny. Luzardo was a little bit older than me. He graduated from Stoneman Douglas in 2016. He was committed to Miami, University of Miami. He ended up actually getting Tommy John surgery, and he didn't pitch his senior year, but he was still drafted in the 3rd round, I believe, by the Washington Nationals. And then he was eventually traded to the Oakland A's for Sean Doolittle. Then he was traded from Oakland to Miami, so he got to go home for Starling Marte. And then he was traded to Philadelphia a couple years ago. And then Andy Painter was a little bit younger than me. He was class of 2021. He was even a bigger touted prospect than Luzardo. Andy Painter was like one of those guys that as a freshman was going to projected to be a first-round draft pick because he was always very tall, threw very hard, great strikeout stuff, like very, very highly touted from a super young age. And he was a first-round draft pick, like I said, 2021. So I played against both of those guys. They were very dominant high school pitchers, as you can imagine, and they were fun to watch, and I got to see them and play against them in person. So the Phillies come in hot. They come in hot. They just swept the Padres, so the Dodgers get to gain some ground on them. Shout out to the Phillies. But now you will have to lose at the mercy of the Dodgers. They come in hot, but overall, this has not been the same Phillies team. I believe in the Phillies long term. I've said that on my other podcast, and I think they're going to be a good team. But if you dive into some of the numbers, the Phillies are a little bit of a two-man show. Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, two of the best hitters in the game. After that, it's pretty much Brandon Marsh, a little bit of Justin Crawford, the rookie in center field. That's it. JT Realmuto, Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, Adolis Garcia. A lot of those guys have really, really struggled. But they do have great pitching. Like I said, Zach Wheeler, Luzardo. Thankfully, the Dodgers avoid Christopher Sanchez, who's in the midst of like 44 scoreless innings. Andy Painter has been hittable this year. Doesn't have many great numbers. But he was a top prospect, like I said. So he does have a good pedigree. So what I need to see in this series, same guys I talked about before the last series. Kyle Tucker, I need to see some better at-bats and some results. Tucker overall has been much better in the month of May. Similar to Freddie Freeman, he had like kind of a mid-average first start of the year, first month. Overall was much better in May. If you look at his OPS in the month of May, it's like 802. So he's had like 800 OPS in May, which is much, much better, but has cooled off a tad towards the end of May, where he was like raking like 900 OPS and then has teetered off, slowed down to where right now it's going to just be a solid month of May. We still have a ton of time for Tucker to turn it around. 30 to 40 home runs is definitely off the board at this point. Maybe 30 home runs is in the realm of possibility. But overall, he still has time to like get the OPS slug up, the on-base percentage up. So the best way you could start out the month of June hot is finish off the last series of May hot. Mookie, I want to continue to see the better at-bats, and then the same thing with Will Smith. All right. That's all my thoughts. This was a great series. Got to see a lot of great things. Unfortunate injury updates and things that transpired with Teo and Kike, but we do get to see Muncy stick around. That is very nice. And Dodgers will take on the Phillies. I will see you guys Sunday to recap that series. As always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Turn on the notifications so you don't miss any of the videos dropping, so you can see the YouTube shorts that I post, as well as the entire podcast. You can follow myself at Nick Talkin' Ball on X. You can follow all of Talkin' Blue on Instagram, TikTok, and X at Talkin' Blue Pod. Like I said, we will see you guys Sunday afternoon to recap the Dodgers and the Phillies. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.